Hey everybody, it's Emily at ARG Schooling, and today I want to talk about upcoming releases that I'm looking forward to for the second half of the year. So I did this video at the beginning of the year. I'm going to be talking about books coming out from this month in June through, I think November is the last month that I have any pre-orders. These are all books that I've pre-ordered. I'm going to focus specifically on pre-orders. So these are books that I will be getting in the mail when they come out. So I'm going to be like looking on my phone to remind myself what books are that I've ordered. So I'm going to put my glasses on so I can do that because I'm an old now and I can't read without them. Okay, so let's start with the month of June. I have 6 books coming out in June that I have pre-ordered. So starting with the day that I'm filming this, today, June 7th, I have pre-ordered The Civil War of Amos Abernathy, and that is by Michael Lally. And this is a middle grade, and I was excited about it because this is a story about a child who is looking to find themselves in history. They're learning about the Civil War and wondering were there any people during the Civil War that might be LGBTQ plus, and learning about like women soldiers and that sort of thing. So finding out that there were trans people that existed in that time and are written down in history and that sort of thing. So sounds like a really cool book. I'm very excited to read that. Then on June 14th, I have Go Hunt Me by Kelly DeVos. So this one I'm excited for because I think it's YA, but it might be adult. I'm not positive. But this is a story about a group of horror fans get this like weekend getaway vacation where they're going to stay in a Romanian castle, and it turns out that that castle might have some other beings living in it. So this is like pitched as for Dracula lovers and fans of Diana Urban's All Your Twisted Secrets. It's a spine-tingling thriller following 7 horror buffs as their dream trip to a remote Romanian castle turns into a nightmare when they begin to get killed one by one. So I think this is going to be so much fun. I've always wanted to go to Romania, see Dracula's castle, you know, that kind of thing. It just sounds like it's going to be a good time. On the 28th of June, I have The Kaya Girl by Mamle Wolo. And this is another middle grade story, and it's set in Ghana, I believe. It says it's interweaving layers of Ghanaian culture to create a prismatic, multifaceted world in which 2 young girls, against all odds, are able to find each other. So I just think it sounds like it's going to be awesome. A really good read. I love middle grade stories set in like countries that don't often get a lot of representation. I can't think of a time I've read a book set in Ghana, so I'm looking forward to this one. So also on the 28th, I have pre-ordered The German Wife, and this is by Kelly Rimmer. And this one I'm interested in reading. It's about a German couple living in Berlin in the 1930s. The husband is a scientist, he's academic, and they are like forced to join the Nazi regime. They don't believe in what's happening, but if they don't join in, then they're going to lose their income, their home, their children. So they do what they have to do during the war. And then in the 1950s, we're following them against. There are 2 timelines happening in this book, where in the 1950s, they're living in Huntsville, Alabama, and I guess the husband has been recruited by the government to work for the American space program. So some of their neighbors find out about their affiliation with the Nazis, and there's some kind of an act of violence that happens, and it's about, you know, is this vengeance or justice? Do they deserve what they get because they were working with the Nazis and that sort of thing. So I feel like it's going to be an interesting read. I'm hoping that it's done well. I'm not sure, but I think I have a good feeling that this is going to be a balanced, you know, like not pro-Nazi kind of a story. Okay, I don't have any pre-orders in July. I don't know why. If there's a book coming out in July that you think I should be paying attention to, let me know. But as far as I know, I haven't seen anything on my radar. So we're going to move on to August. So on August 2nd, one of my most anticipated books of the entire year comes out. I'm very excited. And that is Bloody Fool for Love by William Ritter. This is a Buffy the Vampire story. It's focused on Spike. It is a prequel, so this takes place before the events of, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, when we meet Spike and Drusilla. This is Spike trying to cheer up Drew, depressed or something, and he wants to do something to cheer her up, and it involves some kind of a heist. And I'm here for that. I love Spike. He's one of my favorite Buffyverse characters. I'm here for heist, hijinks, and shenanigans with Drusilla and Spike and whatever other, possible demon people, vampires, I don't know, if Angel might show up, Darla might show up, the Master, who knows? Let's find out. I'm excited for it. So definitely looking forward to that. And then also on the 2nd of August, we have The Book Eaters by Sun Yi Dean. And this is a fantasy where, people can consume knowledge from books. If you eat the book, you gain the knowledge within the book. And that just is such a weird, interesting premise that I just have to know. I have to read it. I'm so curious. I don't know what the actual, plot of the book is. I just know that that is, the world we're in that story, and I'm curious enough to want to read that. Then also on the 2nd is My Imaginary Mary, and this is by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. I have been collecting this series. I have all of them. I've only read the first one. I read My Lady Jane way back when that first came out. I really liked it. Decided I was going to buy the next book. Didn't get around to reading it. And then I just keep collecting them. I know I'm going to like them. I just haven't had a chance to read them. And I'm really excited for this one in particular, because now we're moving on. They did the Lady Janies first, and now we're at Lady Mary's. And the newest one in this series is Mary Shelley, and I have to have it. So I'm very excited. I have no idea where we're going with it, but I cannot wait to read it. Okay, then on the 23rd, I have Babel by R.F. Kuang. I read The Poppy War last year and loved it. I have not read the rest of that series yet, but I think this is the start of a new series. I'm not sure, but it's called Babel, or The Necessity of Violence, an Arcane History of the Oxford Translators' Revolution. And I don't know if I can possibly sum this up, so I'm just going to read you the synopsis. If you haven't heard of this yet, I'm sure you have. This is a very anticipated release for a lot of people. But it says, 1828. Robin Swift, orphaned by cholera in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Lavelle. There he trains for years in Latin, ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institute of Translation, also known as Babel. Babel is the world's center for translation, and more importantly, magic. Silver working, the art of manifesting, the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power, and its knowledge serves the Empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge. But knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes that serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide, can powerful institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? I feel like R.F. Kuang is so much smarter than me that I feel dumb reading these books, but I also love them, so I'm really looking forward to this. It feels like it's going to be an important book and talk about some really deep, important things, so I'm excited to pick that up. Then on August 30th, the last day of the month, we have the next book in the Amari series, Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. I don't really know the plot of this book yet, but I really liked Amari and the Night Brothers when I read it, and at the beginning of this year, I think. I definitely want to continue on with that series. So Amari is sort of like Imagine Harry Potter, but set in America and following a black female protagonist, as she discovers she has this ability to do magic. She's learning about the supernatural world that's hidden from our regular world, and she works with this like institute. I can't remember what it's called now, but they basically work like an underground government kind of to control the supernatural element in our world. So I'm excited to read the next book in that series. Then moving on to September, another one of my absolute most anticipated releases comes out on September 6th, and that is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. All I really know going into this, one, it's Tiffany D. Jackson, and her books are always just so good. And also this book is like, kind of sounds like it's going to be a Carrie retelling. She's delving into horror, like full in horror this time, and I'm here for it. I'm excited. I can't wait to read that. That's also going to be our book club selection for October, so you might want to pre-order yours too. Then also on September 6th, I have Winterkill. This is by Marsha Forchuk Skripuk, I think is how you say the name. I'm probably getting it wrong. This is a historical fiction middle grade book about Holodomor, which is the period in the 1930s when the Soviet Union basically starved the Ukrainian people. And it's not something that I've seen written about very much at all. I think I've only heard of one book, and that's for adults that like focuses on that. But I was excited that there was a middle grade about it, because like I'm always looking for interesting historical fiction, especially on periods that just aren't generally written about. So this sounds like it's going to be really interesting. Also on the 6th, there's a new Rick Riordan Presents that I'm particularly interested in reading, and that is Sirwa Botang's Guide to Vampire Hunting, and this is by Roseanne A. Brown. And I'm looking forward to this because it feels like it's going to be kind of Buffy-ish, like within that whole realm of like kick-ass girl heroine fighting vampires, and I'm excited for that. Let's see, then on September 13th, I have The Life and Crimes of Hoodie Rosen, and this is by Isaac Bloom. This is one I pre-ordered ages ago, and I don't really remember the plot. It says The Chosen meets Darius the Great in this irreverent and timely story of worlds colliding in friendship, betrayal, and hatred. Hoodie Rosen's life isn't that bad. Sure, his entire Orthodox Jewish community has just picked up and moved to the quiet, mostly non-Jewish town of Tregaron, but Hoodie's world hasn't changed that much. He's got basketball to play, studies to avoid, and a supermarket full of delicious kosher snacks to eat. The people of Tregaron aren't happy that so many Orthodox Jews are moving in at once, but that's not Hoodie's problem. That is until he meets and falls for Anna Marie Diaz O'Leary, who happens to be the daughter of the obstinate mayor trying to keep Hoodie's community out of their town. And things only get more complicated when Tregaron is struck by a series of anti-Semitic crimes that quickly escalate to deadly violence. As his community turns on him for siding with the enemy, Hoodie finds himself caught between his first love and the only world he's ever known. Sounds like it's going to be a really good book. Then also on the 13th, we have I'm the Girl by Courtney Summers. This is Courtney Summers' newest book. I really loved Sadie when I read it a couple of years ago. I haven't gotten around to reading The Project, which is their second book. Yeah, this one sounds like it's more in line with Sadie, which I'm looking forward to. This is another one about a girl investigating a murder. So it's 16-year-old Georgia Avis finds the dead body of 13-year-old Ashley James, and so she teams up with Ashley's older sister so they can investigate the murder and find out who the killer was before they can strike again. I guess their investigation is going to uncover some really upsetting things about the wealthy people in town. So this sounds really good, and I'm very excited to read it. And then also on September 13th, I have As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, and this is by Zulfa Katu. And it says this is a love letter to Syria and its people. This is a speculative novel set during the Syrian Revolution. So it's kind of like modern historical fiction, I guess. I'm always looking for things like that. So looking forward to that. Then at the end of September is another one of my most anticipated books of the year, and that is Big Bad by Lily Anderson. And this is another Buffyverse novel, but this one, let me just set this up for you. This one sounds so good. If you are a fan of Buffy and you've seen the episode The Wish in season 3, this is kind of that. Oh my gosh, I just think this has the potential to be amazing. Like, I'm trying so hard not to get my expectations up too high because I've never read anything by Lily Anderson, but oh my gosh, this book has the potential to be like my favorite thing ever. I'm giddy just thinking about it. I don't know. Yeah, we're in Demondale, California, 1999. It's like Sunnydale, but more evil. So basically, this is like the scenario in The Wish where everyone that we know and love is evil. It's an alternate reality, chaos reigns supreme, the mayor's sunshade has created permanent darkness in Sunnydale, opening the Hellmouth once and for all. And so now we're following aspiring supervillains, Jonathan and Andrew. Oh my god, we're getting Jonathan and Andrew. I'm so excited. 1100-year-old vengeance demon Anya. So they're teaming up with Anya. I'm excited for reading the synopsis again. Word gets out there's a new big bad on the scene, one more powerful and more destructive than anyone who's ever come before. She's, of course, Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, and she's hell-bent on rooting out all of this reality's evil by any means necessary. Now, Jonathan, Andrew, and Anya must recruit a team of Demondale's most notorious villains. So we've got Angelus, we've got Spike, we've got Drusilla, we've got the Ripper, Giles, we've got, just all your favorite big bads. They're all here. I'm so excited for this. Then let's move on now before I start getting so giddy that I can't communicate anymore. So let's move on to October. So starting on October 4th, we're almost done here. I have 2 Degrees, and this is by Alan Gratz, and this is a story about potential climate change disaster. And so I've got a lot of Alan Gratz's books on my shelves. I haven't read any of them, but I keep buying them because they all have such interesting scenarios, and this one sounded really cool too. So yeah, this is basically a worst case scenario book where we're talking about climate change, but we're talking about the really bad stuff that could happen if it gets too warm. So we've got fire, we've got ice, we've got floods, we've got all these disasters happening, and kids in the center of the story trying to just survive. So I just think it's going to be a really good read and probably pretty important. So then also on October 4th, I have Where the Lost Ones Go, and this is the newest by Akemi Dawn Bowman. And I think I was excited about this particularly because this is her first middle grade. So I'm looking forward to this middle grade contemporary fantasy. This is about a 12-year-old biracial Japanese American girl grieving the loss of her beloved grandmother and attempts to contact her from beyond the grave. So this sounds like it's going to be great. I love Akemi Dawn Bowman's writing. I really want to read everything she's written. I'm on a quest, and so I must own this middle grade book. Then I have, on the 18th of October, I have Frizzy. This is by Claribel A. Ortega. I'm getting this for my daughter because we loved Ghost Squad. We're currently reading Witchlings and really enjoying it. And this is Claribel A. Ortega's, I think, first graphic novel. I don't think she's done that before. This is a middle grade graphic novel about Marlene, a young girl who stops straightening her hair and embraces her curls. So I just think this is going to be very sweet. And I know my daughter, she's 13. She loves graphic novels. Always wanting more. She specifically loves graphic novels that are contemporary stories, or not necessarily contemporary, but about real people just doing normal things. She loves Raina Telgemeier's stuff. She loved El Defo. So I think she's gonna love this book too. Then also on October 18th, I have When the Angels Left the Old Country by Sasha Lamb. This book sounds so weird, and I have heard nobody talking about it. I don't know why, but it sounds like such an interesting story. So let me just set this up for you. I'm gonna read you the synopsis because this is what got me. Uriel, the angel, and Little Ash, short for Ashmedai, are the only 2 supernatural creatures in their shtetl, which is so tiny it doesn't have a name other than just shtetl. The angel and the demon have been studying together for centuries, but pogroms and the search for a new life have drawn all the young people from their village to America. When one of those young immigrants goes missing, Uriel and Little Ash set off to find her. Along the way, the angel and the demon encounter humans in need of their help, including Rose Cohen, whose best friend and the love of her life has abandoned her to marry a man, and Malka Schulman, whose father died mysteriously on his way to America. But there are obstacles ahead of them as difficult as what they've left behind. Medical exams and demons at Ellis Island, corrupt officials, cruel mob bosses and murderers, poverty. The streets are far from paved with gold. With cinematic sweep and tender observation, Sasha Lamb presents a totally original drama about individual purpose, the fluid nature of identity, and the power of love to change and endure. This sounds so good. I love immigrant stories. I love reading about like immigrants coming to America, especially like turn of the century kind of stuff, like Golem and the Ginny. Think that. Like that's some of my favorite kind of stuff to read about. So I'm really excited to pick this up because I just think it sounds so interesting. It's got like Good Omens kind of vibes. It sounds like without the humor necessarily, but like the demon and the angel working together. This has such good potential. I'm excited. And then also on the 18th, I have Nothing Sung, Nothing Spoken by Nita Tyndall. And this is historical fiction, I think set during World War II. It's YA, and it's focused on a group of queer girls, I think. Charlotte Krauss would follow Angelica Haas anywhere, which is how she finds herself in an underground club on Friday night at the summer before World War II, dancing to contraband American jazz and swing music, suddenly feeling that anything might be possible. Wow, this sounds like it's going to be really good. So we've got a group of queer people in, I think, Germany during World War II, which sounds like it's going to probably break my heart, honestly. It says, heartbreaking and bittersweet novel about the need for queer joy, even in the midst of the horrors of war. For fans of Ruta Sepetys and Melinda Lowe, a heart-wrenching queer historical YA romance set in the swing youth movement of World War II Berlin. I just think this is going to be probably one of my favorite books of the year when I get to read it. So I have 2 more books to talk about. Both of them come out in November, and they're both out on the same day. So on November 8th, I have one of my final, most anticipated books of the year, and that is Gleanings by Neal Shusterman. And this is a collection of short stories set in the Scythe universe. So I love that series. That is my favorite trilogy of all time. I think it's so interesting and clever, and I think about it all the time. So I'm excited to go back into that world again and just like read about other stuff. So like we're going to be reading about different Scythes in history. We're going to be reading about like our characters that we care about, that we've grown to love over the series. So I'm excited. And then the last book I have to talk about is called Morning Sung in Wuhan, and it's by Yin Chang Compestine, and you might know her from A Revolution is Not a Dinner Party. But this is a story about the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's set in Wuhan, and like we're following a group of people, I think maybe a family, as they experience what's happening at the start of the pandemic. It's also middle grade, and so I'm just like, oh, this sounds like it's going to be another one of those like really important books that I just really want to read. So that's it. Those are all of my like most anticipated as of right now at the beginning of June for the rest of the year. That's not to say I'm not going to add more things to this. Like some of these books I've only recently added, so like I'm sure I'm probably going to find some books to pre-order that come out in December. I just haven't come across any yet, but yeah, I'm excited. So let me know down below, what is a book that you're the most excited to read that hasn't come out yet this year? What is your most anticipated new release? And we can chat about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Happy reading. Bye!